The following is an exclusive presentation of the NCCU Sports Network.
North Carolina Central University opened up conference play at home against Bethune-Cookman on Saturday, October 3rd, and C.J. Moore was on fire for the Eagles as he picked off Quentin Williams with one hand in the first quarter. Nigel McCauley hit a pair of field goals in the first half, including this 36-yarder, and Jeremy Thompson and the Eagle defense did their part, and NCCU went to the half down 7-6. After the break, C.J. Moore continued to wreak havoc on the Wildcats as he led the Eagles with 9 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions, including this one in the third quarter. The offense flipped the switch as well, scoring on 5 consecutive drives stretching back to the second quarter. This pass to Deontay Wright set up a rushing touchdown for Darrell McClain as the Eagles took the lead 13-7 in the third quarter. Antonio Brown wrapped up Quentin Williams for a loss of 4 yards as the NCCU defense continued to pressure the Wildcat offense, and that created opportunities for the Eagles to keep the scoring going. Ramon Simpson reeled in a swing pass and he chewed up 23 yards, shedding tacklers in the process, and that led to Malcolm Bell's second rushing touchdown of the day, putting NCCU in front 26-7. Darrell McClain had a banner day running for 144 yards and a touchdown, including a run to the goal line during the Eagles' final drive, but a fourth quarter comeback by Bethune-Cookman gave them a 28-26 win. Jerry Mack joining us now for the press conference. Coach, if you'd like to make a statement about the game.
I thought it was an extremely well-fought game. I couldn't ask any more of our guys. They fought all the way to the end, but that just proves that football is a game of inches, and it came down to basically a yard for the final play.
I feel like there was a momentum swing ending the third quarter and going into the fourth, and what do you think kind of caused that from your perspective?
It could have been several things. We gave up a couple of big plays on defensively. We threw an interception down there with Malcolm Bell when we was trying to kind of make a run at it. We got to do a better job of not getting penalties and things like that. But it was several things. Football's a game of momentum changes, and we had ours to open up the second half, and they had theirs probably to close out the third, beginning of the fourth quarter.
What was the biggest change? You guys were able to stop Quentin Williams in the first half and were really just stuffing him, and then he just ripped up for a couple of really big plays in the fourth quarter. What changed? I
think they made a commitment to throwing the football a little bit more in the second half. When I look at the statistics, and we knew they were, we got some momentum. The first couple of series in the second half, we were able to score. So we knew they was going to try to throw their way back into the game. And they're a very talented football team, and they got some receivers on the perimeter that can make plays. And they started to utilize those guys more. And at the end of the day, we just couldn't keep up.
How frustrating is that to have 2 years in a row the game end in a pretty similar fashion?
It's very frustrating, especially when your guys fight the way they did and our guys put the kind of effort they put forth on the field. We just got to go back to the drawing board. The season's not over with. We're going to keep playing football games, and there are a lot of wins ahead of this football program.
Talk about the play before the kick. You guys look like you guys got in. I saw you called a timeout back-to-back. Were you arguing that they should check out the replay on the end?
They get a buzz down, and if they see fit to replay, it was a televised game. It was so all the cameras was on. So if he didn't get in, he just didn't get in. We'll go back and we'll look at it, and if we see something that we don't agree with, obviously we got to go through the protocol to make the complaint. But at the end of the day, they made the call, and it's all in the ref's hand.
Coach, there was a point in the game stretching from the second quarter to the third where it seemed like the Eagles scored on 4 or 5 consecutive possessions. With this team after the last couple of games against FBS opponents, how good did it feel to be able to score at will, it seemed, against Bethune-Cookman?
We just got in the rhythm. One thing about our offense, whenever we get in the rhythm, we feel like we can compete and we can move the ball with anybody. And we were able to get in the rhythm. We ran the ball extremely well, I thought, tonight, compliment our offensive line and our running backs. And we made some critical catches when we had to. So, overall, we just feel like we can grow as an offense from this production.
McClain, the first 100-yard runner for the Eagles, ran for 144 yards today. Talk about his performance.
I thought Darrell ran the ball extremely hard. You could see him breaking tackles on the outside, on the perimeter, and I think that's one of the things that we saw throughout camp. We just haven't been able to see it in the last couple of ball games, just for the simple fact, probably because of the competition. But I really feel like going forward, he's a guy he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the conference.
Before the game, Malcolm said he really wanted to get in a groove. Do you feel like he found that groove today?
I do. One of those interceptions that he threw bounced off the receiver's shoulder pass. So, not necessarily his fault. The other one, it was another receiver mistake. He didn't do a great job of protecting Malcolm on the pass as well. So I thought Malcolm managed the game extremely well. He got a few drops here and there, and he can't do anything about that. But running the football, he did an outstanding job. I think he had about 93 yards rushing. And we made a commitment to run him more, and he made a commitment to making sure he protected the ball and ran hard and broke some tackles.
And when Idris Augustus went out and, Ramon Simpson got some more playing time, how did you feel like he did?
I got total confidence in all three of our backs. Our top three backs, they all do a great job of practicing. They do a good job of making sure they understand the game plan throughout the course of the week. They all get repetitions. So, when your number's called, you have to show up, and that's what we talk about all the time. Next man up. We got 2 receivers down, and, we had a couple of guys step up and make a big play here or there. So we just got to keep moving forward in that aspect.
Do you think the competition you guys faced the first couple weeks of the season, you weren't really able to establish your run game? Is this what the offense is going to look like more going forward?
I think it looks like, whatever we have success doing at that time. It was a little rainy, the conditions, so we had to put the ball on the ground a little bit more. We were down a couple of receivers. So it was a lot of things that affected this game as far as us running the football slightly more. We had almost 100 plays. I think we had 93 plays or so. We did a good job of playing with some tempo and making sure we ate some time, possession of time. We did a good job all phases of the game. When you look at statistics, the only part we came up short is the score.
What is Idris' status? Did he have an injury or what happened?
Yeah, I think it was just a high ankle sprain. It just, we felt like that those other 2 backs, they were going to give us just as good as a chance as Idris. So no reason to get him injured even more than what he was already injured. And the other thing was he wasn't 100%. So we went with guys who were 100%.
All right, Coach, the next game up for North Carolina Central, head down to Tallahassee to see Florida A&M. How do you feel going forward?
Just got to take a look at, what they have to offer. I know they've been struggling a little bit, but one thing about that team, they have a lot of talent on that team, and they're one of those teams that, we don't want to sleep on anybody because we know they can explode at any time. And we just got to make sure that we go back to the drawing board. This hurts. There's no doubt about this game hurts. But we got 24 hours to recover. No different if we had won the football game. We got 24 hours to enjoy it. So we just got to make sure that, we recover from it. We go back, look at the film, and make sure that, we get ready for FAMU next week.
It was very shocking. I felt like we should have had that in our hands. I feel like Bethune's a tough team. They came back and played back with us, and we did what we can. It was a tough one.
What happened on that second to last play before the field goal? Where did it feel like you ended up? Did you think you were in the end zone? What did you kind of see?
Yeah, I definitely thought I crossed the end zone, but I guess it was seen otherwise. My knee was down, but it definitely felt like I was in.
How frustrating was it when you came up and they ruled it not a touchdown and you thought you had it right then?
It was very frustrating, but we had to keep our composure and move on to the next play.
How does it feel to have the same loss happen, almost exactly the same 2 years in a row?
I mean, me not experiencing it, but the feeling right now, and I couldn't imagine how I felt back then. It's probably the same thing, but I definitely feel awful about it.
And after Augustus got hurt and earlier in the game, you really exploded and had over 100 rushing yards. What did it feel like for you, and what were you kind of doing to be able to explode out?
Idris just kept just letting me know, like, hey, look, you can do this, just step up. And, I told my team I was going to do the best I can, and the line really did everything they good for me. So they opened up a lot of holes and opportunities for me, and I just took part of it.
I feel like you really benefited from the weather. Maybe, the receivers didn't get as many catches as they wanted, but you guys got to have the bulk of the work today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we running backs don't mind taking the load. Any one of us can carry the rock, and that's something the coaches believe in, and that's something we like.
After Idris got hurt, was he on the sideline kind of coaching you and, telling you what he was seeing?
Most definitely.
Okay, and what do you think about Ramon Simpson? He came in, too, and had a pretty big game.
Oh, yeah, he's just as explosive. That's the thing. We have more than one guy that can do the same thing, and that's, make us more dynamic. So that's something we like doing.
The Eagles, you were part of the offensive explosion. You put up 144 yards of your own. The Eagles put 500 yards up offensively. What did it feel like to be out in the field when you guys were rolling like that? You scored on about 4 consecutive drives during the game from the second to the third quarter.
It was a huge adrenaline rush. I was excited to see these guys pumping and moving, and this is something we've been working on all summer, and it was just good to see it executed.
What were they kind of doing different in the fourth quarter? Earlier in the game, you were really getting out for some big runs, and they seemed to stop you guys more in the fourth quarter. Was it something they changed or something you guys changed?
Offensive-wise, or we see a lot of things when running the ball because, you know, your defense likes to cram down. So, you know, coaches see things that we don't see. So they see some outside receiver runs. So they just try to open up the defense more.
Well, the next game down at Florida A&M again. Down at Florida A&M. How do you feel heading down to that game?
We feel good. We're gonna be okay.
I mean, this of course is disappointing, and I think that's just the overall feel right now. You know, it's just disappointing. We worked so hard all week long, got a great game plan. You execute for most of the game, and then it just all comes apart, and so it's just disappointing.
How frustrating is it to have the same kind of loss 2 years in a row?
I mean, it's frustrating because, you know, like you want to improve every year as a team, and you want to improve as players, and you work for that, and you work to improve, and we work to improve, and we definitely improved in a lot of areas, but as you can see, other teams get a chance to improve too, and that's kind of how it goes.
What was the biggest difference that they were doing in the fourth quarter when they ripped off those 21 straight points?
The biggest difference, I think they just they kind of got into a rhythm. You know, they're a good offense. They're not a bad offense, so they weren't going to be held in check the entire game. And I think that's one of those teams that when they get in the rhythm, they're kind of hard to stop. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew where they wanted to go where they wanted to go with the ball, and they knew how to exploit us at that moment in time in the game. So, you know, hats off to them and their coordinator.
How big were your 2 interceptions that you had? What's going through your mind as you're grabbing those?
And they're not really big at all, you know, in the moment. When you lose games, they're not, you know, you always try to leave it all on the field, and at the time, they're big plays because you're just doing your job. You know, coaches put you in position, you got to make plays when they come your way. So you just try to not leave any plays on the field. That's kind of what goes through your mind when things like that happen.
I know you're on special teams sometimes. Were you out on the field for the blocked field goal attempt?
No, I wasn't. I was on the sideline.
Did you have a view at all of who blocked that for their team?
What I saw or believe I saw is they rush pretty hard. They bring A-gap pressure. They kind of got it through the middle, through A-gap pressure, and they were getting close all game, and I guess they finally broke through when it mattered the most.
How frustrating is it to see that happen? You're on the sideline and there's nothing you can do.
I mean, it's frustrating because there was something we could do, and our offense, they played their hearts out. You know, they did exactly what you want an offense to do against a team like that, and the championship caliber defense. And you know, defensively, you can't give up 21 and answer and win many games versus good teams. You just can't do that. You can't forfeit leads in this league like that because teams are too good. They're too good, and they'll make you pay.
For yourself, the 2 interceptions, the one that you made one-handed early in the game, but also Bethune-Cookman just put 7 points on the board in the first quarter, and you're able to keep them out of the end zone and keep them at 7 points until the fourth quarter. What were you guys able to do defensively as you were able to, it seemed to be able to push them around for most of the game?
Well, I think guys just play with a lot of energy, and like I said, we had a pretty good game plan. Our coaches, they always put us in good positions to make plays, and I think everything, we were kind of on the same page earlier on in the game, and we had a lot of momentum, a lot of energy, and we were feeding off of that, and that's just something that, it kind of gets rolling. Defensively, you can get rolling, and we were just rolling at one point.
Hey, you connected for a couple of tackles for loss, and the linebackers and defensive line combined to make a few sacks. What was it like watching them operate in front of you?
Well, we love the D-lineman. Of course, the DB's dream is to play with a good D-line, and we get that opportunity every week. And those boys, they go out there and they work their butt off. And, I mean, before the game, they were telling us, all we need is 3 seconds. Don't even worry about it. And they were true to their word. And as a secondary, you got to hold up when you have a good D-line like that. You got to hold up a little better. The quarterbacks, they're good players, but our D-line is pretty intense, so it's exciting every time they make a play. We get really excited in the back end.
For you, you said, you guys had the momentum, you guys were rolling. When did you kind of feel that change?
Well, I think we kind of, you get into a rhythm and then you kind of go back into defense mode instead of attack mode. And as a defense, we kind of went to defense mode. We weren't really attacking. And it wasn't so much like the play calling or anything like that. It was just on the field. It's hard to when you have momentum like that and you're high, you can get too high. And I think just at a point we were too high. And quarterback got loose a couple of times, made some throws, and they make plays those are the type of plays they make. And eventually those guys were going to make plays, but you kind of have to do a better job containing that. And we just didn't. They made more plays than we did.
The next game on the schedule is Florida A&M. How do you feel heading down to Tallahassee?
Just another opportunity to get back to work and move forward on the season. We got a long season ahead of us, so just not getting too down about first conference loss. Get a first conference win next week, hopefully, and that's what we'll be working towards.
This has been an exclusive presentation of the NCCU Sports Network.